Hi, I'm George Straighton, screenwriter of Hercules and Xena Warrior Princess, and you're listening to GenreTainment.
Hello everyone, this is GenreTainment at sci-fi-pulse-radio.com. This is Marks, and today we speak with the director and producer of the Finnish-Australian-German, independently produced and fan-backed film Iron Sky. Now, it's not every day someone makes a sci-fi comedy about an invasion from Nazis on the moon. Plus, we have on the show our featured guest music artist of the week, Kory, from the Vancouver band Sorry Buttons. Now, what you heard at the beginning of the show was a snippet from the theme song for our web series Reality on Demand, a song composed and performed by our friend T. Sean Harding. Now, you can find our web series at realityondemandseries.com. Now, before we go to our featured interview with the filmmakers of Iron Sky, let's go to our interview with our featured music artist.
I'm at your mercy and I hate being there. I'm at your mercy and you don't even care. I'm at your mercy, you got me but down. I'm at your mercy and it's driving me wild.
This is Marks, and you're listening to GenreTainment. We are talking to our featured music artist of the week. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background in music?
Sure. I am Kory, and I'm the singer from Sorry Buttons. I guess for my background, it started. My dad always played music, and he'd always said, "Oh, Kory, you got to get into a band. You got to play music." And I was never too into the idea because I was quite shy when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. But I started taking piano when I was 10, though I really didn't enjoy practicing. And then when I hit about 20, I stopped, I guess, at about 19. And when I hit about 20, I was like, oh, I want to start singing. And so I decided I should pick up the piano again and try and write some music. And then I started trying to get some people together and just play shows because I still found it quite nerve-wracking. But actually, it was in an acting class. And my instructor said, you have to do the thing that frightens you the most in front of everybody. And I was like, oh, that's singing. So I sang and I was like, that's not that bad. And then I was like, I should start a band and start playing music. And so that's kind of how it all happened.
Well, great.
Yeah.
And how would you describe your style of music?
I like to call it quirky pop because it's kind of, it's pop-y, but it's a little bit different and like fun and yeah, I just call it quirky pop. And it's funny because the other day I have a backup singer who also plays flute, and we were just talking about it, and she's like, oh, I never know really what to call the style of music. She's like, but I kind of call it quirky pop. I was like, I do too. So it's nice that she was like thinking the same way that I was.
What other music artists influence you?
I really enjoy Fiona Apple. And I really enjoy Melody Gardot. And actually, one of the first ones that caught my interest was Norah Jones, because I tend to sing a lot softer than, like, there's a lot of really wonderful singers who have these powerful voices like Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, which I really love their stuff, but I was just like, I can't sing like that. I'd love to, but I just don't have that voice. So then when I heard Norah Jones, I was like, oh, like I can actually, people listen and people enjoy that style of music. So, and also there's another band called Hey Ocean from Vancouver. And that was also like a turning point when I saw them, because I had all these friends in bands, but it was more kind of sullen, more emo, I guess, music. And I was like, it's nice, but it's not something I'm inspired to play. And then when I saw Hey Ocean, I was like, wow, it's great to see a band that plays this kind of upbeat, funky, fun music. And so I thought, that one really inspired me as well.
How long have you been doing performances?
Oh, I think 5, coming up 6 years.
Do you have any CDs out?
I do have a couple. I have a CD from a few previous bands ago, but that was under my name, Kory Darnell. And then I recently, about a year ago, recorded an EP for Sorry Buttons on my computer, and it was great learning, but it wasn't the exact sound I was going for. So I recently did 2 songs with Howard Redekop, who is the producer I've been wanting to work with for a few years, and finally we connected and got together and recorded a couple songs. So those are more the direction that I'm happy I'm going in.
Now, I'm always curious about the story behind a song. Can you tell us a little bit about Heartbeat?
It's the smile, it's the eyes, things that bring me over here, vibe that makes my heart to feel, sense of sweet security, heart kneels so purely.
Tell us a little bit about Heartbeat and what inspired it.
No Mercy. Heartbeat was people always give me a hard time for writing love songs, but you have to write what you're inspired about. So I had just met somebody, and I think it was we'd gone on a date, which was really lovely, and I never really hang out with people a whole lot when I start seeing someone. It's usually very slow and kind of casual, but all of a sudden this one was really kind of all the time. We were just going out and doing things. But so I went home and I wrote, and it was I think 1 a.m. or 2 a.m, and I just sat at my computer and I wrote this song out in a couple hours, and I put all the instruments with it, and that was the fastest I ever wrote a song. And then he was going to Hong Kong for work, and I sent it to him, and so I was just inspired by him, I guess. And we're still together. He's lovely. So
Okay. Now, what about No Mercy?
I'm at your mercy and I hate being there. I'm at your mercy and you don't even care. You love to keep me hanging on, 'cause making me weak, it keeps you strong. Give a little, give a little, give a little and let me go. Give a little, give a little, give a little and tell me no. Give a little, give a little, give a little and give it back. You're wasting my time and I want it back.
Can you tell us a little bit about No Mercy and what inspired that song?
yeah, No Mercy. I wrote that one several years ago. Oh yes, it was when I was working on my very first EP for Kory Darnell, and the producer I was working with, he wasn't wonderful, and he wasn't giving me my music, and I was just like, well, I'm at your mercy. Like I that's my music. I've paid for it, but he wasn't giving it to me. So that was the main inspiration. And then over the time that I kind of would sing it and build it, and then finally recorded it with Howard, it did evolve into a love song, or like a not love song, kind of directing at somebody who maybe you were at their mercy in a relationship. But originally it started out, I was at this guy's mercy. And so I've never worked with him since, but I mean, he's a nice
Yeah, that would be very frustrating as an artist because you put your heart out in your work, and then if you can't, you lose control of it. So
you lose control, and even in the end he still has all my, I finally did get a CD, but he still has all the original recordings. So but that's okay. Onwards and upwards.
Well, all right. Well, really enjoy your music. Where can our listeners find you? Do you have a presence online?
I do. It's actually sorrybuttons.com, so sorrybutons.com, or else I have the Bandcamp and MySpace, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I have it all.
I wanna know if the answer's no. I wanna know if the answer's no. I'd rather know if the answer's no. I'd rather know now. I wanna know if the answer's no. I'd rather know if the answer's no. I wanna know if the answer's no. I wanna know now. Give a little, give a little, give a little and give it back. Give a little, give a little, give a little and let me go. Give a little, give a little, give a little and let me go. Give a little, give a little, give a little and give it back. You're wasting my time and I want it back.
my name is Crystal Lowe from Primeval New World, and you are listening to GenreTainment.
Well, thanks to Kory for agreeing to the interview. We wish her luck with her music and look forward to hearing new songs from her Vancouver band. Now let's get to our featured interview with the filmmakers of Iron Sky. You're listening to GenreTainment, and this is Marks and
Julie, and we're here today to talk to some of the brilliant minds behind one of our favorite independent films to come out for a long time, Iron Sky. So if you two gentlemen would introduce yourselves and let us know what you did for this film.
All right, my name is Timo Vuorensola. I'm a director living in Finland, and I'm obviously directed Iron Sky.
Okay, and I'm Tero Kaukomaa. I'm the producer of that film, Iron Sky, and I live actually in Switzerland, but spend a lot of time in Finland.
Okay, well, let's start from the beginning. How did this Finnish-German-Australian co-production about...
I love that combination.
About Nazis from the moon. How this all start?
The Nazis and the moon bit.
Yeah, let's start with the Nazis on the moon. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing that, just me and a couple of guys from Finland, we were sitting in a sauna in Finland and, thinking about what would be a good idea for a film. A friend of mine, Jarmo Puskala, he had this idea already a little bit while, and he had been toying around with it and said, okay, I have this idea that why don't we make a film about the Nazis on the dark side of the moon? And obviously we were like laughing about it, like sounds crazy, but what do you actually mean about it? It was a fine idea, but there was no story really behind that until we actually started to Google about Nazis on the moon, and we found out that there's a lot of people out there who actually believe that there are Nazis on the moon.
Oh,
so
really?
We started to. Oh yeah, you can go to Wikipedia and put in there, Nazi UFOs and stuff like that, and you'll find quite a lot of articles about it. But we thought that let's take this idea, let's cook it up a little bit. We found a very good writer, Johanna Sinisalo, and with her we started to develop the story and started to insert stuff in there. And then once we had something together, we approached Tero Kaukomaa, who can actually take it from here.
Yes, I mean, Timo and Samuli and Jarmo and those guys, they came with this crazy story. I think it was like 12-page treatment written, and I read it. I thought like, wow, this is the craziest thing I ever heard about, and I also thought that actually this feels like it's going to cost $100 million or something. And I knew that we never will get that kind of money, but nevertheless, let's try to do the film, and that's what we did.
I've heard the term participatory cinema with the method of how you marketed and raised funds for Iron Sky. I mean, a lot of times when we hear something like fan funding or investing, we normally think of Kickstarter or Indiegogo, but you guys did something different than that. Can you talk a little bit about that approach?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, originally the origins of the whole crowdsourcing in our case was actually an earlier film called Starwreck, where we already crowdsourced a lot of the material from the internet. We had created this internet fan base, and we were creating a lot of people. They were doing 3D models, they were doing bits into story. They put themselves in small roles in the film. I mean, we asked them to join in small roles in the film and all that. So when we started to work on Iron Sky, we thought that we want to take this crowdsourcing experience, we want to take it with us to the Iron Sky world, and we want to expand it. And eventually, we also ended up in financing financing the whole thing. Tero actually was the person who originally came up with this idea, and it's good to know that this was actually before any of the major crowdfunding things actually had happened. So we were sort of pioneering in many fields on that. So it was a little bit. It took a lot of time for us to make it actually work.
Yeah, you have to remember that it's, as you said, it's a Finnish-German-Australian co-production, and there's quite a lot of like so-called traditional funding in there. But what we faced quite a big problem to get the whole budget together, and that was the point when we developed the possibility to invest on the film, from that the fans can invest in it. And it took off really, really good, and a lot of people came in, and we raised through that like $1 million, but it was also affecting to the traditional funders and investors, and on top of this 1 million we got from the fans, it affected, we got another 2 million from the traditional funders. So all in all, it was, in the end of the day, sort of making this film happen, really. After we had been struggling to get the budget together quite a while.
Now, the fact that you already had such a fan base on the internet, did that help you? I mean, not obviously it helped you raise the money, but did it help you get a little bit more support behind the idea of making a comedy with Nazis? I mean, was that a hard sell for some people?
Yeah, basically, it's kind of, you could say, hard to sell, but also it was kind of a good package to sell, because the pitch and the idea is so crazy that you immediately raise the attention, and this is very important, sort of to get the attention, and then of course there has been a lot of disbelief or whatever, sort of like around the thing, and yes, because there were so many people backing it and so many people doing it together with us, and once the surrounding world really started to understand that there really is a huge amount of fans and a huge community around it, it really helped us a lot to make the budget together, and then also once the film was completed and we put it out to market it and so forth. That's been really, really helpful.
And you mentioned Star Wreck.
Yeah.
What was those films about?
Star Wreck was an interesting project, which was initiated by Samuli Torsonen, who was that time like teenager or 16, 17 years old nerd, Star Trek fan who started to make his own film, and he first made like a couple of minutes, piece of film which he released in the internet, and started to get feedback from the people, and made a little bit more and more, and then at some point he realized that actually he needs a director, and then he found Timo, and then they did together this film like 7 years, shooting it in the I think the kitchen of the mother of the producer, and finally came out with a full-length feature film, which they released legally online, legally free online, and I think this was like 2006, and it has gained more than 10 million people to see it already.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And good thing, also nice and interesting was also that it was also then commercially released on DVD, like in Scandinavia and UK, US, and Japan, and places like this.
Yeah, I think it was quite a chaotic experience. I think in the beginning we really didn't know that much what we were doing, but we were always sort of very much striving towards it. We really wanted to make this film as good as we ever could with whatever tools we were able to have. And, we had a lot of people from the internet helping us out, so that was an important part of the thing. But it was a 7 years process, so it took a lot of our time and energy and willpower, so to say. And I don't think we really believed that it's going to become as popular as it became, because it was really, we did our best, but we still thought that it's a Finnish language, very sort of a geeky amateur movie that who wants to see that kind of film in the end. But apparently we didn't realize the power of that, and eventually it became very, very popular. And that was sort of the first experience on me and our crew on how to make films, all the possible problems that we would encounter. And I think it also helped a lot when we started to work on Iron Sky that we knew a little bit like what are the possible problems out there. And of course, it honed our skills in creating visual effects, which turned out to be really important, because Iron Sky is so very heavy on the visual effects side, and we had to have a very good connection with me and Samuli Torsson, who is the visual effects artist. We had to have a very strong connection in order to be able to pull that out with, in the end, very small budget.
Yeah, those are some very really impressive special effects. We were talking about that when we watched it. I mean, you had still a good budget, but you got more than double out of your budget for sure with those special effects that you had. We were watching some of the specials that you had on YouTube about making Iron Sky, and when you were making the street, I believe it's in Frankfurt, that you had that looked like New York. You made it to look like New York, and a lot of the extras that they were referencing, Star Trek and Star Trek, and I think that, I'm assuming then you have a huge fan base for that in Germany then, so that really helped you get all those people to show up and help you as extras.
Yeah, it was a lot of people in Germany who were following the production, obviously because of the subject matter, but also because we had a lot of German actors in there, and we were shooting in Frankfurt. But in addition to that, it was actually pretty nice to see that a lot of people flew in from surrounding countries as well. From Spain, from Finland, obviously from Switzerland, whatever. A lot of people flew in just to be part in this experience, and I think that's a very important part of the whole crowdsourcing thing. That from the audience perspective, audience point of view, this is an experience that they would not be able to achieve in any other way. There is no other way to become, be part of a film if you work in I don't know, in IT business, or if you work in some other business that is not film business. So basically, they came in with their own money because they wanted to have this experience. They wanted to see how it works on the set, and they really enjoyed a lot of that day. And we all had a good time and really good fun. And they were really, really passionate fans. It's not like just some guys who pay off to play extras, but these guys, they gave everything, and they never whined. They were completely perfect. So in many ways, it was easily the perfect possible solution for that.
Yeah, the energy seemed really great with everybody that was there. Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about how just the process of making those street scenes look like you were in New York City? I mean, it looked like an busy American city.
Yeah, that's the reason we picked Frankfurt as the shooting location is that it's the only city in Europe which has high-rise skyline. So it's the only city which has skyscrapers, and there's only one street, and on that street you can see a couple of skyscrapers. And so we were basically able to shoot in two different directions on that street. And what we did then, obviously, was that we needed yellow cabs because that's what New York is known for. So we called every car collector in Germany and found out that there exists 7 yellow cabs in New York, in whole Germany.
Oh my goodness!
We drove all of those. Yeah. So we drove all of those 7 yellow cabs from all over the Germany to Frankfurt. And then we put them sort of riding a circle around Frankfurt streets to give an impression that there is a lot of yellow cab traffic. And then we found some other collectors who had like some American cars and American police cars and stuff like that. And then it's a big job of just changing the street signs and stuff like that. Then we went to New York with a very small crew, just me and a couple of other guys, to shoot some plate shots. So we were able to add some real New York elements like Empire State Building here and Chrysler Building there in the background to give an impression that we would be in New York. And it's, as long as you're able to keep it in that way, that kind of scene, it's really, you can fool people very easily. You open a scene, you open a shot, you show that you say that there is New York, and then you show some New York landmarks, and then you cut into whatever city. And as long as you've done your work perfectly, you're able to fool the people. But so it was possible to do it like that, and it was. But it was a big job to make it work. But in the end, I'm actually quite happy. I think it looks like it could be in Europe.
Yeah, it does.
It really does. Well, we've seen that before because Marks and I lived for a while up in Vancouver, British Columbia, and there would be these films they say, oh, we're in New York, and then we're sitting in the theater and we're thinking, but we just walked over that bridge to get here. That's obviously in Vancouver. And
yeah, that's the thing. That's the funniest thing, and that was the funniest thing when we were in the film opening in Frankfurt, and a lot of people after the screening, during the screening, they were laughing because they were seeing like, this is not New York. This is, I don't know, Neumannscher Strasse here or whatever Strasse there, and then they were having their own fun about that. But it's just want to say this.
Yeah, you pulled it off very well.
Thank you.
When we watched it, we definitely got a feel of like it was had a little bit of influence from We Love Dr. Strangelove. And especially at the end, yeah. I just kept hearing the line, "There's no fighting in the war room,"
yeah.
in my mind. The humor was great because it really didn't spare anybody, but it wasn't just throwaway humor. It was humor that was, we were being humorous, but talking about some really serious issues, but in such a funny way that you enjoyed it. Can you tell us a little bit about what it took to sort of get that feel? Was that initially in the writing you knew right away?
Yeah, it's a good thing that you asked, because part of the humor, I was a little bit unsure as we were shooting it, because I had a very clear idea on how I wanted to play, but I didn't really know, because a big part of the political satire humor was very shot in small bits and pieces, and it was sort of hard to get the big picture in my head. So I was very relieved when I saw the first cut of the film, and I realized that we were able to get that sort of satirical side to it without it being like, we didn't really want to make it a mocking humor. We wanted to make it a comedy that is, it's not preaching, but it's making fun of things that are actually important things to be taught. And I think that was one of the most important things when we started to write the script, is that we want to leave the story in people's heads. So when they walk at the theater or stop watching the film in home and whatever, that there is a thought that is left in the brain, sort of something that it's not just a science fiction action film, but there actually is a little bit more, which you can adapt, or then you can decide not to adapt, but at least there's a way to carry a message with it. But I don't really actually know how we were able to get that sort of humor, but I think it has something to do with the Finnish sense of humor, sense of comedy, because I think the Finnish sense of comedy is that there is nothing sacred in the world. There is nothing you can't make fun out of. Even, it's usually the worse the more you make fun out of it. Obviously, we didn't go to the worst possible places with Iron Sky. We sort of stayed on the lighter side of the thing, although we did make fun of Nazis, but we didn't go into making fun out of the victims of the Nazis or anything. So that was that's a different kind of thing. Yeah. But I think it has something to do with the sense of there is nothing sacred, and if you shouldn't make fun out of something, then you probably should. Kind of idea.
It was very irreverent. I love the image consultants, and about how it's not about really saying anything important. It's just make it sound good and make it look good, and people will cheer and love it. And then knowing that it was such a finished production. I loved when the president of the United States says, "Is there anyone who doesn't have weapons on theirs?" And Finland raises their hand, and everyone just goes, "Oh, it figures." And it was so great because it's just that willingness to, hey, we're not poking fun at anybody. We're all in this together, and we're all making fun of everything.
Or the North Korea.
The North Korea was very funny when everyone laughs, and it was so much fun. I mean, as an American, you just kind of to know, there are other people that are able to see the silliness and the ridiculousness and the humor, but have the feeling that, hey, we all feel the same way. We all think the same things are ridiculous, and it really does translate well across the world, really.
Yeah, it does indeed. That's true.
Now, we were talking about the visual effects earlier. I'm curious, since I imagine a lot of the moon scenes were...
No, they went really to the moon, babe.
They did. The moon scenes were, I imagine, were mostly green screen, like in the station and such. How difficult was it directing actors in this virtual set?
I think for me it is quite easy, because I did my first film, Starlight, which was basically completely green screen, and to me I'm sort of quite used to it. I think it was more harder for some of the actors. It really depends on the actor. Who some of the actors are really easygoing with green screen. They don't, care what's around. They're able to create the world, or they don't care what's happening around them. Some of the actors really want and need very specific explanations on what's happening, so that they're reacting the right way, and they need a lot of help to imagine the world around them. And some of maybe the older actors who haven't been used to green screen at all, they're a little bit, wondering like, what the hell is this? It's all about just figuring out and listening to the actors and listening how do they feel about green screen and how much information they need. For example, one of the actors, Udo Kier, who plays the old Führer for Wolfgang Kurzfleisch, I started to explain him what's around these scenes, and he said that he doesn't want to know. He wants to imagine this whole space station to be his living room, because he's lived there all his life. There is nothing new or special to him anymore there, and I think it works pretty well that he's not looking around and admiring things because he knows the whole place.
Yeah.
But then to some actors, they were very specific that you have to explain. There's a spaceship over there, and there's a window over there, and there's this and this and this happening. But it depends a lot on the actor. But for me, it's quite easy because it's a lot of the things can be done in the post in the end. So it's rather easy.
Now, you mentioned actors. I'm a little curious as to what how did you go about casting this film? Because, that's a very international effort that you had there. So did you have some people in mind, or did you have open auditions in certain countries?
I think I had a mind. Udo Kier I had definitely in mind.
Yeah.
And some other people, as soon as they were suggested to me, I realized that they would be very good for the roles. But in the end, it was rather typical casting process in a way that we sent the script out to casting agents in Germany and later on in Australia, because the Australia part came much later in the very last moments of the production. It came through that we're going to shoot in Australia, and a big part of the cast came from Australia. So it was sort of so we were able to sort of half cast the film with Germany, and then the other half we had to wait until we got to Australia. But in the way it was rather typical casting in that way. But there was a lot of problems trying to find, because many of the scenes that take place in the United States are shot in Germany. So to find English-speaking actors, fluent American English-speaking actors from Germany is actually a bigger problem that I sort of realized in the beginning. And many of the scenes that take place on the Nazi moon base, which is basically a German-speaking area, are shot in Australia, where you can find a lot of Americans, but you can't find almost any German-speaking actors. So it was sort of stupid that we were flipping that, but the studio was in Australia, so what can we do? But that was a bit of a problem.
You managed to do it because they all sounded fantastic. So.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of places where we had to dub. There was one of the guys who had a very big Australian accent, and we had to dub it. And there's that sort of stuff. But mostly, I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, because knowing how to speak a language and doing it in an accent that sounds like a native accent are two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they are, and usually many times when I speak with actors, let's say non-American actors, and non-English speaking territory actors, and they say that they speak fluently English, it really doesn't mean that they can pass as an Americans or something, because even Australians can sometimes pass as an Americans, because everybody is so very well trained in listening to American English that you can spot little mistakes. If somebody speaks bad German, I wouldn't even notice that, but if somebody speaks bad English, I would realize it in the moment.
Yeah, it's and also English in England, English in Australia, and English in America. We can have very different ways of saying things.
Absolutely.
And throughout America, sometimes with the Americans, you go to a different region and someone says something, and what does that word mean? What are you talking about?
And that's definitely and that's something that my ears are not trained for, and that's one of the problems when it comes to directing English speaking actors, is that I don't know if those little details are right. I mean, I know in general if whatever they're saying is right, but sometimes it comes to a point like does this make sense or not? I don't know. I don't speak. But it's even worse in German because I don't speak a word in German. And Iron Sky, there was like, 30% of the film was in German.
Yeah.
So I had to rely on other people who were like listening for me, and they were saying, yeah, that's right. No, that's not right. He's saying differently. So it's a bit of a different. But I really enjoyed directing in 2 languages, and I really enjoyed doing a science fiction film which has bravely 2 languages, because most of the science fiction films only have English. And I think that making a film in Europe, the wealth is that you're able to add other languages as well in the pot. And I think it's important that the Germans, they speak real German, not just a sort of mock German or German accent kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that let off some of the pressure. I was deciding earlier whether to say Guten Tag or Grüß Gott, and it wouldn't matter.
No.
For hello. Some people feel very strongly, I think, from what I gather. But now, whenever you were directing, I guess, did you direct in a different language depending on which country you were in, or did you speak, was English more the common language?
We had a very strict only English rule on the set. Even if I was speaking to my cinematographer or my producer Tero and cinematographer Mika, who is also Finnish, even if I was speaking in private with them, still the language needed to be English, because there was always somebody who is listening and somebody who is listening and getting like, okay, next they're gonna ask me to do this, I'm gonna start doing it before they ask me to do it, kind of way. And that's so on the set the language was always English, and that was a bit of a problem in the beginning, because especially in Germany everybody is used to speaking German on the set, and it was a bit of a cacophony when people were shouting in Finnish and in German and in different English accents all over. And then I had this great woman Tarja, who was my sort of assistant. She was screaming all the time, like, English, everybody. And, that silenced the whole set down, and everybody started to mutter in English. And it was very effective. But that's the only way really to make it work, is you do work. And Tero, and I think on your side also the production language was and has been quite a lot English.
No, it's basically it has to be English, like you said, in all ways, because it's all about getting the communication flowing. So you lose time if you start to talk with another language and then people don't understand. Then you have to start to translate and blah blah blah. It's just better from the beginning. Use English. Everybody understands, and everything goes more smoothly then.
And I think for Finns it's easy, because in Finland we don't. I think one of the important things is that we never dubbed our TV programs or our movies. So we're used to listen to English. So we basically everybody in Finland knows English inside and out, mostly everywhere around Finland. But when you go to Germany, it's not the case at all. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't speak English at all, so it's more complicated there. But for Finns, it's rather easy, because we speak rather good English.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
There's a character, Washington, in the show. I don't want to spoil it, I guess, if someone hasn't watched it yet. But
if you haven't watched it, watch it.
but he goes through some makeup.
There is some serious makeup work going on here. Now, could you explain a little bit about how? Because that was fantastic.
Yeah. How long did it take to do each day to make him up that way?
Yeah, I mean, without giving away the actual thing, for those who haven't seen Iron Sky, I always remember this moment when Chris Kirby, who is the actor of Washington, when he went to the makeup, and for the first time he had this makeup made on, and he saw his face for the first time after the makeup. He was actually crying. Mm-hmm. He came out of the makeup bus, and he was crying, and so it was actually quite an effective also on him, because he had been sitting there on the makeup chair, and then he saw his face, and that was, and I think he said something that he felt that part of him was sort of stripped away for the role, and he was. So I think that's an interesting thing, and although we obviously made fun out of the whole topic of that, we still take it rather seriously. And I actually deliberately didn't want to make that specific part being as much a comedy as it is more like a horrific thing that a Nazi could do, and although it leads into comedic situations, the actual reveal of this little turnover, I wanted to keep it rather serious. I wanted to make it a bit scary moment rather than just. And once you watch the film and sort of keep that in mind, and you watch how the scene plays out, it actually plays out as a sort of Iron Sky comedy. But the moment when the thing is taken off from him and everybody sees what they made out of him, I deliberately took out all the music and sort of just left some clunking sounds in there and gave it a little bit of a moment to so that the people are sort of maybe laughing at it, but at the same time thinking, actually, what am I laughing at? This is actually quite a horrible thing to laugh at. And I think that was the thing. But altogether, it's a comedy, and I think one of the most important things of that thing is really that in the end, what counts is what kind of a person you are inside, no matter what kind of horrible things are made to you, and how you are sort of taken from certain role and placed to another role. Still, the person that you are inside counts and makes the real difference. And as it is with Washington, I mean, no matter how horribly he is treated, he still is. He doesn't give up. He's still willing to fight all the way to the end, all the way. He's willing to go all the way to the end, and it pays off in the end. But yeah, his situation is rather dire.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
to add shortly, that makeup thing took hours of work every day.
Oh.
So that is also.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's actually Liz McGilligan who was also working on Lord of the Rings, and I think also, I'm not sure, but I think also on Hobbit. So she's really experienced makeup artist, and she was creating the makeup for a long time. And it's not easy to find the. It's much easier to make it, so to say, the other way around. But this way around, it's much more complicated.
Yeah, it seemed it, but I thought it was interesting that, because he even says, you've stripped me of my identity and who I am. And really, when we watched it and they did reveal, we did sort of, both of us, we just kind of gasped and our jaws were open. Yeah. And we had been laughing, but all of a sudden our laughter was, it was just sort of this awkward, It's like, I can't laugh, but it's so absurd. Yeah. But it was horrifying that someone could do that to somebody, And that was carried off very well.
Yeah, it's a tricky part to write also in there, but because I wanted to have the right tone. And, of course, the roots of that thing are actually deeper in the whole Nazi ideology and the Nazi experiments that they did during the Second World War, when they actually believed that they would be able to Aryanize, so to say, some people, and they did some terrible experiments on that field. So yeah, it's unfortunately it also has quite a serious roots to it.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
Yeah, there have been some talk on the web about a possible prequel or sequel. Is that possibly true?
Yeah, Tero, maybe you want to say something about that.
It's possibly true, definitely. Yes, we are developing the sequel, and also we are developing a prequel. We are planning to do totally something else in between. We don't even have a official schedule for this sequel thing, so it remains to be seen. I hope, in a year, we know the schedule more. We are sort of we have good stuff there, and we love to expand and do things around this whole Iron Sky universe, and we feel that there's so many stories you can tell around or within this universe, and so definitely we are on the way. I just don't know when it's coming. Sooner, hopefully, than what we did Iron Sky, because it took 6.5 years to do.
Yeah. And I think we're very. It encourages us to see how well the film has been received. So that's. I think we had a lot of ideas already when we were writing first Iron Sky, that this is a sort of a bigger story than just one film. But of course, we didn't dare to dream that we were able to make a second part until we see how the first one goes. But now that we're sort of saw how it went, we've started to gather the ideas. And I think that there's basically two important questions to ask. Is the first question to ask and to answer is how did the Nazis get to the moon, and what have they been doing there for the 73 years before Iron Sky film? And also the other question is what happens after Iron Sky? Is there a future for mankind and if, what kind of feature is that? So yeah, there's a lot of stories that we're.
I think either one of those would be really interesting.
Yeah, we're very interested to make those.
Yeah.
Is there a comic book tie-in?
Yeah, there's a comic book called Iron Sky. There's Iron Sky comic book, and it's a 3-part comic book that it's coming out actually in print. On the first part is already out on the internet, which you can find. The whole thing, the whole 3 parts are coming out in March 2013 from American IDW publishing house. It's written by Mikko Rautalahti and Jerry Kissel.
What's the current news? What's the current status or situation of Iron Sky? Because I thought I saw somewhere about something about $10 million profit or something along those lines.
The box office is over 10 million. I don't know exactly, but it's over 10 million, and it's released now already quite in a few countries, but it's still coming out. Like actually. A couple of days ago, it was released in Hong Kong, and there's still some countries which are coming out, and in some countries it already came on DVD following the earlier theatrical release, and yeah, it's on a good way.
So you're still releasing it in theaters in some parts of the world, then?
Yes, like Hong Kong, they started in theaters like last Thursday.
Wow.
2-3 days ago, yeah. And then it's coming out, like in France, it's coming out, but the theatrical thing, it's probably going to be kind of a limited release, and then it's more, they're concentrating on DVD, I think next February. But yes.
But altogether, the film was released in, I would say, 40-50 countries theatrically, and I think it was a big hit in a couple of countries, like for example in Germany it was a very successful, and other European countries, and actually Japan was actually quite good as well and all that. So it's been doing rather fine. And in addition to that, in addition to Iron Sky, we're also cooking up a new film called Jeremiah Harm, which is a science fiction action film, which we're working together with American producers Arnold Rifkin and Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios, and that's the next film that we'll be shooting, hopefully next year. Crossing fingers, knocking on the wood. But that's a bit bigger than Iron Sky. And then, we'll be jumping back on Iron Sky and probably developing Iron Sky, the prequels and sequels, as we're working on the other stuff. So it's an ongoing process.
You're going to be very busy.
That's good.
Yes, very busy.
Seems like, yes.
And I'm sorry, what was the name of the other movie you're working on right now?
It's called Jeremiah Harm. You can find, if you want to Google Jeremiah Harm, you can find from YouTube a little 4-minute promo which we did for the film, which gives you a little bit of an idea what kind of film it's going to be.
Okay, great.
Sort of a science fiction western
Ooh,
action movie.
We like those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of people like those.
Now, I thought I read.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought I read something about a movie called Killed Adolf Hitler. Is this the same one or different?
Yeah. This is different. And then there's I Killed Adolf Hitler. That's another project that's also been going on for quite a while for us, and we're right now sort of putting things in place. We don't know exactly the schedule on that, but it's called I Killed Adolf Hitler, and it's a story of 2 hitmen sent back in time to assassinate Adolf Hitler before he becomes the ruler of Germany. But of course they fail. Hitler manages to escape with a time machine to the future, and all hell breaks loose. But that's another film that's we're working on, but we don't know too much about the schedule on that one yet, unless Tero can tell something else at this moment.
No, it's like we are putting like the efforts and my half for next year, and sort of like developing and doing like production planning, building up the budget, and some point starting casting for like Adolf Hitler. So it's in a pipeline, but it's coming a bit later.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, find you on the internet.
I think the easiest to find us on the internet is, I would suggest always to go to our Facebook page on Iron Sky, facebook.com/IronSky, or ironsky.net, where you can find basically all the stuff that we're working on and doing and all that. And of course, if you want to find out more about Jeremiah Harm, you have to go to www.jeremiahharm.com, where you'll find the promo, and you'll find a couple of other interesting little things over there. that's the easiest way to find us. Of course, we're on Twitter as well and all that. So we are quite active all over the internet.
My harm, we started to collaborate with the people, and our first thing what we have been asking people are doing designing aliens for us for that film. We need a lot of aliens.
Oh.
So.
Well, we're interested already just hearing that.
Fantastic.
So sci-fi western with aliens. Then.
I like it.
Yes.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Only thing I want to add is spread the word of Iron Sky. That's the most important thing. And go to jeremiahharm.com and design aliens. You can get those aliens alive on big screen. Good enough, so.
Enjoy the Christmas and Happy New Year.
Oh.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
You.
Hi, my name is David Peterson. I'm the creator of the Dothraki language for HBO's Game of Thrones and the alien language and culture consultant for Sci-Fi's Defiance, and you're listening to GenreTainment.
Special thanks to Timo and Tero for speaking with us. We look forward to more stories from the Iron Sky universe. Plus today, the demo version of Iron Sky Invasion became available. So after you watch the movie, if you want more Iron Sky, you can click on over to ironskyinvasion.com and check out the demo of the video game. And that's what I'm going to do after this show's over. Now, GenreTainment is taking a week off for the holidays, but we'll be back. And there will be plenty of more shows on this channel for you to check out while we're gone, including the Sci-Fi Pulse Radio Christmas special with Julie, Ian, and I talking about our favorite Christmas-themed movie and television memories. And when we do come back, we will have tons of great guests, including actress Jen Page, who you may have seen in Gamers Darkness Rising, Journey Quest Season 2, the web series Chop Saki Boom, and the newly premiered web series Geek Seekers. She'll be talking about acting in these great projects filmed out in the Seattle area, plus telling us all about her newest film, Project London, an independently produced film supported by fans and jam-packed with visual effects. We will also have Michael Flores on the show, creator of the popular Weird Western web series Western X, and Victor Solis, co-creator of the superhero comedy web series Generic Girl. And that's just us warming up. Plus, we have a new show coming up in January on this very channel. We call it The Roundtable, where we have various hosts from the channel, like Julie, Ian, and I, joined by 2 or more guests where we discuss various topics and genre news. I think it's a really great new addition to the lineup, and we look forward to sharing it with you. So that's it for today's GenreTainment. Join us right back here when we return from our break here at scifipulseradio.com on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. And of course, you can listen to any of our past episodes by searching archives. Until next time.